Hey everybody out in Facebook Live fan, Russ Mitchell, Live Land I should say. Russ Mitchell from the Channel 3 Newsroom, joined today by Archie Green. He's a hip hop artist and mental health advocate, and we're going to talk about Kanye West today. And Archie has a fascinating story. Archie suffered from depression and got help and knew there was a moment he had to get help. We're going to talk about perhaps what Kanye West is going through right now.
Yes.
Archie, thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Appreciate it.
Pleasure.
When you talk about, could you describe this, kind of set the bar for us? When you talk about clinical depression, what are we talking about exactly?
So basically, just actual diagnosis from a mental health professional in terms of the symptoms of feeling alone, feeling isolated, also at times feeling suicidal, but it's not due to necessarily your conditions, but a chemical imbalance in your brain.
I think a lot of people are sad, they get melancholy. Yeah. When do you know when you've crossed that line, that you've gone from melancholy to clinically depressed?
Just on like certain things I've seen, like TED Talks, they talk about sadness being something that is acceptable, something that is in a moment, and how the difference between that and depression is something that can be triggered by something that wasn't even sad. There's certain days where someone like myself who has depression could be feeling down for no reason at all. With everything that's been going on in the past 4 months that I've been doing this professionally, I still have certain days where I might be feeling down. And the thing about it that I have to remember consciously is like, oh, well, that's part of my condition. It's not necessarily meaning that I haven't accomplished great things. It's kind of the way my brain is set up. So that's when I always check in with my therapist just to see how things are going.
You mentioned your therapist. Was it difficult for you to get to that point where you said to yourself, I need some help. I can't deal with this?
It was. And the thing about it is I was uneducated on what depression was. I had been suffering from depression for years and didn't know it. And there was a time where I kind of had thought about, well, maybe I should. And finally, from the nudging of a friend of mine who was also a psychologist, he was like, it might be a good idea for you to speak to someone about it. And that's when I decided to do that.
We talk about mental health in the black community, and there's still this stigma there that, hey, I can take care of this myself, kind of a macho attitude. You're talking to people, you're having conferences and seminars, you're telling people, you shouldn't think like that. It's okay to seek help.
I think, and recently I spoke with a panel on BBC World Service on this show when Kid Cudi had done the same thing when he entered rehab. And I spoke with a young lady who runs a blog called Depressed While Black. And it's something that she basically spoke on the fact that sometimes it's a privilege to be African American and be vulnerable and to acknowledge mental problems, mental issues, because for so long, in the black community, we've always been taught to be strong and to suppress what's really going on with us. And so, my goal with my outreach and my talking about mental health and the importance of it is to break down that barrier, break down those myths and misconceptions about it, and acknowledge that it's normal.
You mentioned Kid Cudi, who has had his own bout with depression. Let's talk about Kanye West, one of Kid Cudi's best friends. When you look at what Kanye West is doing right now, what's happening in his concerts, the fact that he has canceled his tour, is someone who has gone through this, and as an artist, what do you think is happening with him right now?
I think, I think more so by the people in his circle. He's kind of had to have a reality check with everything that's happened. I think one of the biggest things that, true Kanye fans will know is that he never really took the time out to cope with the loss of his mother. Now it's been 9 years since she passed away, and it was in November that she passed away. So he's probably grieving with that. And then the fact that his wife and the mother of his children was robbed at gunpoint, and he was defenseless. He could do nothing about it at that time. He took literally a few days off and then hopped back on tour. That's not how you grieve. That's not how you process things. You need to kind of slow down, take a minute. Well, now he's gotten to a point where, and I think a lot of the comments that he said recently, the erratic behavior, those were like kind of triggers that something was going on. And I think someone in his camp finally was like, all right, we need to really, this is not him just acting out. Like, this is him calling out for help.
In having interviewed people of his stature in the past, I know that when you hit that level, the train is moving. And everybody is not necessarily giving you the best advice because they want the train to keep moving. When you're someone of his stature, is it possible that people are seeing these things in you but not saying anything?
Yeah.
Because you're the meal ticket for so many people?
Yeah, I think it's pretty hard sometimes because you don't want to step on toes.
Right.
If someone has a big ego or is paying you,
Right.
if you're work for hire, at some points it might be out of place. But I truly believe if you're a real friend, to quote Kanye, if you're a real friend, you'll step in and say like, look, man, it's okay. Like, do you want to talk about what's going on? And I know there was a friend of his, a rapper by the name of Rhymefest, who I think it was last year, he has stated like, Kanye needs to sit down and talk to somebody about what's going on. He needs to really sit down. That's a true friend. A true friend will call you out on certain things. And I think that a lot of the people that were in Kanye's camp at that time were kind of just looking past, oh, he's just acting out, because they weren't really there from the beginning.
Right. We're going to talk about this in the 7-minute segment, which is going to air on Channel 3 next month. But I just asked you this in the other room. We look at people like you, artists, or these folks who have supreme confidence, who are up on stage. Obviously, it takes a lot to do that.
Yes.
These people are invincible in so many ways. But that's exactly the wrong way to look at someone, right?
Yeah, no. The one thing that a lot of people misunderstand about artists or entertainers, politicians, sport greats, is that we're also human. So we might be on stage, we might be performing songs, doing certain things, but at the same time, we have good and bad days. And if when you're in front of all these lights and you've got so much pressure on you, especially if you already have something going on with you mentally, it can be very taxing. So, one of the things I said in the song was, underneath these smiles and pictures of success is nothing but a beautiful mess. I could be a mess when I'm at home, and that's the thing with Facebook, with social media is, the main medium is we're always publicizing what's going on that's great.
Right.
We don't publicize what's going on when there are bad things going on. But yeah, like I channel a lot of my frustrations, everything into my music. I actually have a show coming up tomorrow at the Grog Shop.
All right.
And tomorrow's actually the anniversary of my DUI when I first was confronted with my depression. So it's everything coming full circle.
Yeah, it's interesting. You mentioned, your song and the line "Beautiful Mess."
Yeah.
You think of music, the tears of a clown, Eminence Front. There are all the all these things that kind of echo that. What advice would you have for people who are in a place where you were a couple years ago and are at that moment where, you know what, I don't know if I should get help or not, but I know there's an issue.
I would say, first of all, it's okay to feel the way that you feel. Understand that you're not the only one that's feeling that way. Obviously, if you are suicidal, if you have suicidal thoughts, then call someone immediately. And the other thing about it is, it really is not as bad as you might think it is. When you seek out a therapist, you seek out someone that you're comfortable speaking with. Me personally, I had an African-American male therapist because that's who I was comfortable with.
Right.
Someone else may prefer a woman or, someone of a closer age. But understand that either way, going to see a therapist is just like going to the gym. Really
That's
is.
a great way of looking at it.
Yeah.
You want to get your website out there in case people want to get in touch with you?
Sure. You can check out my music at archiegreenisclass.com. You can also check me out on Facebook, Twitter. And the new project is called the Black Pharaoh EP. It's on Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal, all those channels as well.
And layers, peel them layers back.
Peel them layers back. Yeah,
all right, Archie Green.
absolutely.
Thanks a lot.
All
Continued
right,
success.
thank you.
Happy holiday.
Thank you. You as well.
Enjoy. We'll see you next time.